Have you ever felt the sting of being disrespected at work, in your relationships, or among so-called friends? What if I told you that every act of disrespect you've tolerated has quietly stolen your power? In this video, we'll uncover how to kill disrespect at its root, with the cold-blooded wisdom of Machiavelli. Not with kindness, not with patience, but with dominance, danger, and strategy. Disrespect is never random. It may arrive dressed in humor, cloaked in sarcasm, or hidden beneath politeness. But make no mistake, it is always deliberate. People do not disrespect you by accident. They do it to measure your response, to test how far they can push, to see whether your silence gives them permission to go further next time. What most fail to understand is that disrespect is not an emotional impulse. It is a strategic maneuver. It is the opening move in a larger game of dominance. And if you mistake it for a harmless act or let it pass unchallenged, you have already lost. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. In the power games of Florence, disrespect was a quiet way to declare war. One snide remark in a public square could signal to others that your reputation was ripe for undermining. One raised eyebrow in a council chamber could mean the difference between influence and isolation. But the modern world has made this weapon more subtle, more dangerous. It no longer arrives with a sword, but with a smirk. A passive-aggressive joke, a refusal to acknowledge your authority, a slow erosion of your presence in a room. These are not social glitches. These are calculated threats. Think of it like this. When a subordinate interrupts you in a meeting, they're not being careless, they're announcing to the room that you can be interrupted. When a friend mocks your ambition under the guise of just kidding, they're not being playful, they're poking for weakness. And when a partner ignores your boundaries and expects you to adjust, they're not unaware, they're setting the standard. In the mind of Machiavelli, every action is political, even personal relationships, especially personal relationships. Power is not just what you have, but what others believe you will protect. And once they believe you will not protect your dignity, your time, or your values, that belief spreads like poison. Disrespect, once tolerated, multiplies, and it rarely stays where it started. If one person is allowed to mock you without repercussion, others will follow. Why? Because your response sets the rules. Your silence is a green light. Your nervous laugh is a surrender. Your diplomatic explanation is a signal that you fear confrontation more than humiliation. People don't respect kindness. They respect consequences. They respect clarity. And most importantly, they respect cost. Now some will tell you it's not that deep. But that right there is the shield of the disrespectful. Relax, don't take it personally. You're too sensitive. These phrases are not genuine. They are tactics designed to disarm you so they can continue unchecked. The more you accept this language, the more you train others that you are safe to mock, to test, to slowly diminish. And here's where the Machiavellian mind must intervene. You must learn to decode these signals not through the lens of emotion, but through the lens of strategy. Every time someone dismisses your ideas, speaks over you, forgets your contribution, or teases your effort, it's not a mistake. It's a move in the hierarchy they are trying to climb, even if they pretend not to be climbing it. They do not want to defeat you directly. That would cost too much. They want to weaken you socially, psychologically, until you shrink by choice, until you doubt your value, until others see you as smaller than you are. This is the genius of disrespect. It rarely looks like a threat, but it quietly rewrites the rules of engagement. What was once unacceptable becomes normal. What was once offensive becomes funny. And what was once a line becomes a footstool. Machiavelli wrote, A wise prince must never allow himself to be disrespected, for respect lost is rarely regained. The key is to train yourself to see what others overlook. When someone treats you with dismissiveness, they are asking a question: what happens if I do this? And your reaction becomes the answer they will share with others. There are those who test you softly to see whether you bite, whether you defend your space, whether you are someone with a boundary or a doormat with a smile. Mercy is a beautiful virtue when you hold the sword. But when it comes to disrespect, mercy is not noble. It is dangerous. Because when you show mercy to someone who has insulted you, belittled you, or tested your dignity, what you think is forgiveness, they see it as weakness. And in the mind of your adversary, weakness is nothing more than an open invitation. Machiavelli saw it time and again. Those who are too forgiving after being disrespected don't earn admiration, they earn contempt. Why? Because people only value what has a cost, and when your dignity comes cheap, they treat it like it's worthless. You give them leniency and they take it as a license. There's an illusion, especially among the well-meaning, that to ignore an insult is to rise above it. That if you pretend not to notice disrespect, you somehow remain untouchable. But Machiavelli knew better. He understood human nature at its core. People are not moral. They are opportunistic. They watch, they study. And when they notice that there are no consequences to crossing you, they begin to cross more often and more boldly. You may think you're keeping the peace by brushing it off. But what you're really doing is giving permission. What you're doing is training others that offending you comes free of charge, and worse, that you will likely apologize for making it awkward. Disrespect, left unpunished, evolves. It transforms from light sarcasm into full-blown mockery, from subtle dismissal to public defiance. And by the time you realize how far it's gone, the damage is done not just to your reputation, but to the perception others hold of your authority. The mercy you show in these moments isn't seen as emotional strength. It's interpreted as a lack of inner resolve, as if you're afraid to assert yourself, afraid to draw the line, afraid to risk offending the very people who have no issue offending you. This is where Machiavellian psychology breaks from the teachings of saints and philosophers. In politics, in war, and yes, even in everyday human interaction, mercy without force is an illusion. If people believe they can disrespect you without suffering a shift in dynamic, they will not only continue, they will escalate. Because they learn from your silence more than from your speeches. Machiavelli wrote that cruelty, when well used, can be a tool of order. In the same way, your response to disrespect must be measured but decisive. You don't need to rage. You don't need to shout, but you do need to signal clearly, unmistakably, that your tolerance is not infinite. Even a simple, surgical response can shift the tide. A cold stare, a firm correction, a removal of access. A calm, strategic boundary. What matters is not the drama. It's the clarity. You are not someone to insult without consequence. You are not someone who accepts crumbs in the name of peace. You are not a safe place for those who treat you as beneath them. The cruelest part of mercy is that it often backfires on the merciful. The one you forgave tells others of your soft heart, but not out of respect. They brag about it, they joke about it, and they signal to others that you can be pushed, prodded, played with. Because no matter how kind your intentions, the result is the same. The people who disrespect you once and get away with it will do it again, and worse. And those who watch from the sidelines will assume the rules have changed. If someone violates your respect and you greet them with silence, you've taught them you don't value yourself enough to defend yourself. You may not say it out loud, but your passivity speaks volumes. And here's the cruel irony: the more patient you are with disrespect, the more disrespect you receive. Your restraint does not inspire change, it inspires confidence in them, not in you. Machiavelli did not advise cruelty for pleasure. He advised it for clarity, to make one example so that others may learn, to establish order through strength, not through sentiment, because when one person is punished wisely, 10 others stay in line. When one is forgiven blindly, 10 others try their luck. There are moments when silence is wisdom, but when it comes to disrespect, silence becomes surrender. And not just surrender, but surrender with spectators. Machiavelli understood the theater of power. He knew that every insult, every dismissal, every challenge, if left unanswered, grows not in silence, but in the minds of those watching. You are not only being disrespected, you are being observed, and in the political arena, the court, the office, or even your own home, observation shapes reality. You don't just defeat disrespect in private. You kill it in front of witnesses, because respect is not earned behind closed doors. It's earned where others see what happens to those who step out of line. People don't learn from your intentions. They learn from your reactions, especially the ones that unfold in public view. That is why Machiavelli warns, if someone disrespects you openly, do not respond privately. Do not pull them aside. Do not explain. You must strike where the eyes are watching. But here's where most people go wrong. They explode, they overreact, they try to destroy their enemy emotionally, verbally, socially, all in a chaotic burst of passion. And in doing so, they lose the one thing Machiavelli valued above all else: control. Precision is everything. Your response must not be wild. It must be cold, surgical, intentional, because anything less makes you look unstable, and instability weakens your command of fear. Think of it this way: disrespect is a poison introduced into a room. A smirk here, a joke at your expense there. It spreads slowly, it normalizes itself. If you wait too long, it becomes part of your identity. He's the one we can tease. He's the one we can challenge without consequence. But if you cut it early and publicly, you re-establish the hierarchy with clarity. The key is timing. You don't react instantly, you let it register. You allow the offender to believe they got away with it, just for a moment. Then you respond in a way that hits harder because it is not emotional, it is calculated. When you strike, you do it with purpose. You humiliate them not with rage, but with intellect. You expose their pettiness. You isolate their disrespect in front of the same audience that witnessed the insult. And in doing so, you turn their move against them. Machiavelli believed that punishment, when necessary, must be memorable. Not excessive, not bloody, but definitive, something that tells the rest, this is the line, cross it, and your dignity ends where he did. Because people don't remember long speeches. They remember spectacle. They remember the man who tried to mock the prince and was never seen at court again. This doesn't mean you destroy everyone who disrespects you. That would be inefficient. It means you choose the right moment, the right person, the right response. And you make it hurt not physically, but reputationally. Disrespect is a performance. Your answer must be too. There is power in silence, but only after the correction has been made. Once you've acted, once you've put the offender in their place with precision, then you can go quiet. And that silence becomes louder than any insult. It becomes a reminder, an echo, a signal that you don't need to explain yourself twice. Most people handle disrespect like it's a private matter. They think a stern conversation or passive withdrawal will fix it. But disrespect thrives in privacy. It hides behind closed doors. It multiplies in ambiguity. What kills it is sunlight. Exposure, public consequence, the knowledge that if someone crosses you, they won't just face your disapproval. They'll lose their standing. They'll lose face, and everyone else will see it happen. In a world ruled by reputation, your authority lives or dies not by your emotions, but by your ability to manage perception. That is why public disrespect requires a public answer, not always loud, not always aggressive, but always unmistakable. When you let an insult pass without a visible correction, you teach others to aim higher next time. And when they see that your silence means safety, they begin to forget who you are. Respect is not requested. It is not begged for, nor hoped for. Respect is commanded. And to command respect, you must become someone people fear to offend. Not necessarily through violence, not through loud words or open threats, but through presence, through consequence. Through the quiet understanding that crossing you comes with a cost. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Because fear is reliable, love is conditional. Respect born of fear doesn't mean you become cruel. It means you become dangerous, but in a refined way. It means people know you are capable of defending yourself, your value, and your dignity in ways that will not be forgotten. The world respects power, and power is simply this, the ability to create consequence. When people know you can make their life harder if they step on your name, they step carefully. But when you are perceived as harmless, polite, always accommodating, always soft, you are treated as disposable. Your time is taken, your words are dismissed, your authority dissolves. The modern lie is that being nice will lead to respect. But Machiavelli would call that delusion. People do not admire the one who's always available, always agreeable, always forgiving. They admire the one who controls their time, guards their presence, and makes others earn their favor. Because what is rare is respected, and what is dangerous is feared in silence. So how do you become dangerous? You start by refusing to be easy to access. You become intentional with your boundaries. You let people feel that when they cross a line with you, even subtly, they will lose access, opportunities, or trust. You don't always need to speak. Your distance is enough. Your absence sends messages louder than your words. You become dangerous when people know you won't always respond, but when you do, it's decisive. When your silence is not submission, but calculation. When you speak with precision and correct with cold clarity, you don't react emotionally, you react strategically. There's a difference between being feared and being erratic. Machiavelli would never advise chaos. He advises predictability with one condition, that people know exactly what triggers your retaliation. When someone offends you and nothing happens, they get braver. But when someone offends you and your response is intelligent, unexpected, and sharp, it burns into their memory. That's what builds the aura of danger, not rage, but discipline. Your words must matter. You don't bluff. You don't bark. You build the kind of reputation that speaks for you when you're not in the room. You're not the loudest. You're not the most aggressive, but you are the one no one wants to gamble with, because they've seen or heard what happens when someone does. Danger also means you hold power in areas others depend on. Maybe it's your influence, your knowledge, your control over outcomes. Maybe it's your emotional detachment, the fact that you're not afraid to walk away. People fear losing things they depend on. If they depend on your kindness, your skill, your proximity, then you hold cards. You become less a person and more a calculation. People respect those who do not fear loss, who do not beg for belonging, who walk away from disrespect without flinching and never come back the same. When you become someone who doesn't chase approval, but makes others earn yours, you reverse the game. You force others to measure their words. You force them to prepare before approaching you. You become a test, not an option. And there's a certain elegance in this kind of danger. It's not about threats. It's not about violence. It's about self-respect turned outward. You carry yourself like someone who has tasted betrayal, endured disrespect, and emerged sharper, not softer. People can feel when you are not naive, when you don't tolerate nonsense, when you say little but watch everything. Machiavelli's wisdom is not about being evil. It's about being untouchable in the right moments. It's about constructing an image that whispers, "If you cross me, it will cost you more than it costs me." That is power. That is the art of commanding respect, and that is why the dangerous man never has to ask for it. Disrespect is not merely an insult, it's an invasion. A test, a signal that someone sees your boundaries as negotiable. And if you allow it once, you silently give permission for it to continue. Machiavelli did not live in a world of comfort. He lived in a world of power. He understood that every slight, every word, every look was part of a game where only the sharp survived. And in that game, forgiveness is not always virtue. Silence is not always strength. Tolerance is not always wisdom. You kill disrespect not by begging for better treatment, but by creating consequences. You don't correct it with emotion. You destroy it with clarity, cold, calm, public, surgical. You remind the world that you are not harmless. That crossing you is remembered. That dignity is not just your right. It is your weapon. Become someone they cannot afford to insult. Let your presence speak louder than your explanations, and let every act of disrespect be met, not with tears or words, but with strategy. This is not about cruelty. This is about survival in a world that feeds on the weak and tests the strong. In the eyes of Machiavelli, there is no greater failure than letting others redefine your worth. So do not explain yourself. Do not plead, do not wait, stand, correct, command, and let them fear the thought of ever disrespecting you again.